What's up, family? Isn't technology amazing? It's beautiful out here tonight. I got the exposure turned up so you guys can see it better. So, I've been really getting into the end time stuff, which I probably shouldn't, because it distracts me from the finished work of our God, which is where we stand in power. The place we stand in power from is the finished work of Christ that draws us into His presence and allows us into His presence by the veil being torn by His blood. But I have been reading a lot in Matthew 24, where it talks about the blah blah, and I know so many pastors are going to say blah blah blah, it's for the talking to the Hebrews, and the reason they say that is because it says the elect. But if you look at if you go and look at all the times that it talks about the elect, and I don't have time to talk about all of it, but the majority of the time it's talking about this. Like half the time it's talking about those who are saved in general, and a quarter of the time it's talking about Gentiles specifically, which is us, the Goyim, and then the rest of the time it's a couple times it talks about it being the Hebrews, and a couple times once it talks about Jacob, and once it refers to Christ Himself. So, I don't think that you can really get that in Matthew 24 that He's talking just to the Hebrews. And Jesus has given us some pretty stern warnings. And then if you go to Mark 13, he basically says the same thing. And at the end of the chapter, He says, "What I say to you, I say unto all, watch." Now the only chapter that pastors send me to when speaking about the rapture is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, of course, where it says, "Comfort one another that the dead in Christ shall rise first." But it doesn't really say anything about comforting one another because we won't go through tribulation. In fact, Jesus promised us tribulation. In fact, the first time tribulation's mentioned, He's talking about the seed that's being cast on the ground, and He said, when persecution or tribulation, He compares persecution and tribulation. The Bible does that a lot so that things don't get lost in translation. Parallelism, it's a form of poetry. It says, when persecution or tribulation arise for the word's sake, he quickly dries up, for he has no root in himself. And every other time it's talking about tribulation, if you look at all the times that it's talking about tribulation, it says, we through much tribulation must secure our salvation. And Pastor says that the Chinese, that they lived through the communists coming in, and they lived through it and managed to regroup and say, well, they managed to come out of it. But the difference is that we're not China. We're the United States of America, and as we stay under God's authority, we speak with His authority. And we're not staying under His authority, unfortunately. We're taking prayer out of schools and listening to the devil's tongue in our home by way of media. But there's a really important chapter in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and I don't know how people could misconstrue that. Now, I have heard pastors teach and people say that which withholds is removed by rapture. But I don't get that, because it says in Revelations that the dragon would war with the saints and that he would be given power to overcome them. Now, what saints would he be warring with if we'd all been raptured? And the whole 7-year thing, the whole 7 years of tribulation, that's from the time that the Antichrist sits in the temple, showing himself that he thinks he is God, and that doesn't mean that we're not going to have to go through a lot of it before then. Anyways, I highly recommend that you guys get on YouTube and watch Jonathan Cahn, the Harbinger. This guy makes some pretty powerful implications as far as the future of the United States and our breaking our covenant with God. Anyways, whatever comes, we'll meet it with prayer and by the Spirit that is within us. And that Spirit is love, and it is our bond. So, pray for me, and know I'm praying for you.